This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Monday, January 6, 2020, and we're at CES. It's CES 2020. And my guest is the super awesome YouTube creator extraordinaire, Shannon Morse.
You're so sweet.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Miriam. How are you?
I'm good. It's the end of press days here at CES. So we're at the end of 3 days and the show hasn't started.
I know.
The show starts tomorrow and we've been doing 3 days of press conferences and pre-briefs.
Wait, are you telling me that I still have to walk around the show floor tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, yeah, we wanted to kind of give you folks a preview of, or a summary of what we found that was interesting in the last 3 days in the press days. And then, I'll try to have another show later this week where we're going to go through the rest of it, basically. So there's a few things, for example, I cannot talk about yet because I haven't seen them yet. Like that concept phone. That's tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I've got a briefing on Tuesday for that. But stay tuned. There'll be some phone news on the show. And it's not just about phone news. I know that you all know that we cover other stuff. So I want to thank our sponsor, because we have a special sponsor today. Dassault Systèmes demonstrates how the virtual world is enabling companies to efficiently leverage data and technologies to create sustainable, personalized experiences that improve people's lives. And if you are here in Vegas and you are at CES and you're listening to this show Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever I publish it, you should check out Dassault Systèmes' booth. It's in North Hall, booth 4623. They used to make aircraft, they still do. In making aircraft, they realized that they needed to create 3D CAD software, like in the 70s, when computers were not really good at doing 3D. And they became a leader at that. If you're a serious person doing some 3D work today, chances are you're using software by Dassault Systèmes. So they decided, hey, why don't we start an incubator that gives startups and companies that are using our tools an opportunity to get funding. And so a lot of these companies are not B2B companies, they're consumer companies. And they are here at CES. And so this is how they ended up here. That's kind of the quick story.
That's really cool.
So they are thankfully helping us out this week, and I wanted to thank them for being the sponsors of the show. And also just let you know that in the show notes, there'll be a link to a video interview with Dassault Systèmes, one of the execs there. And so he can tell you in his own words. It's a bit of an interview I did on video. So back to the program. Lenovo. What did you think of Lenovo? It's a loaded question, isn't it?
Oh, man. I saw so many products at Lenovo's booth. It was on Sunday. They invited me over there to get some B-roll. Good stuff. Disclaimer, they are my sponsor for my YouTube channel during CES. But I try to remain completely unbiased based on all my reviews from the past 10 years that I've been doing reviews.
Yeah.
So, I think the things that really stood out to me at their booth included the X1 Fold, which I know you really liked as well as they were also showing off a ThinkBook, I think it was called. It has an ebook,
right,
or an e-reader on the outside.
Yeah, so it's basically a laptop, a convertible, like 360-degree laptop, right? But or is it just a regular laptop?
It's a regular laptop.
So it doesn't do the yoga thing.
No, it doesn't. It's a regular laptop, but instead of just being a blank back whenever you open up the display, it also has a e-reader.
Basically like a Kindle.
Basically like a Kindle.
Back panel of the display.
Yeah, it was so cool.
It's very cool.
So that way you can access things like your calendar, notifications. You could also access Amazon Alexa with no problems. And that's without even opening up your laptop. Yeah. Because the e-reader will recognize all this information, the display on the outside of it. And you'll be able to, check those notifications or anything just by looking at it without opening it.
And they had a pen. Cool. They had pen input.
They do.
So you can take notes and stuff. So it's really interesting. So yeah, that's the part I was a little confused about initially when I saw it. I thought it was a 360 tablet, one that flips all the way. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's actually just a laptop where the lid's a bit thicker, and on the external part of the lid, the part that normally is just like metal or plastic or glass, they actually have a essentially a Kindle stuck on there.
Yeah.
And
That's a great way of explaining
and
it.
have like a pen input on that Kindle and touch. Actually, it supports capacitive touch too.
It's so
which is
cute.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I'm surprised nobody's done that before.
Me too.
There are a few phones in the past from Android phones by a Russian company called Yodaphone
I
that had
remember that, yes.
dual-sided. So
Remember,
they
I
had
do.
one. The front was a color display, normal display, and the back was an OLED, not OLED, e-ink, black and white, like
Yeah.
Kindle type display, and that was cool. So this is kind of the same deal, I guess.
Now, I do a lot of focus on security and privacy.
Yeah.
And one thing I was curious about was like, oh, if you open up your laptop and you're like in a meeting, can somebody who's on the other side of you, like facing the machine, see the display and be able to read your calendar or your notifications?
Probably.
And they actually said when you open it up, it automatically brings all that information down because it's assuming that you're using it as a laptop, so you're not facing the
Got it.
ebook display or the e-reader display. So that way it's disabling all of that information so
cool.
nobody else can see it while they're, facing you from the opposite direction. Which I was like, cool, that's good, because like I know when I review this product, that's going to be a major thing is security and privacy.
It is also a ThinkPad, so it's kind of geared more at like professional users, I guess.
Yeah.
And with all the ruggedness that comes with that, which I think is cool, right? So I saw that, I played with it, I thought it was cool. And then of course you mentioned it, the folding PC. The Fold.
The X1 Fold.
Yeah, ThinkPad X1 Fold. And I just have to say, so far that's the standout for me. I mean, there's going to be more. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be excited about what OnePlus is doing tomorrow. But I feel like the Fold, and we're not talking about the Galaxy Fold here, the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Fold is the first time I've played with a display, a device with a folding display that doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart after 2 minutes of use. Like, I've used a lot of them have been concepts and prototypes and early production, and they've all felt very fragile. And we know what happened to the Galaxy Fold. If everybody who's listening to this podcast, we covered that extensively last year. But even the new revised Galaxy Fold still feels fragile, and you still have to be consciously aware that you should be gentle with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I
haven't even played with one yet.
There's a few. I don't have one. I've been trying to get one forever. No luck. But there are a few people I know, like some YouTube creators I know have one, and I know a couple that have like a few dead pixels or something already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's not catastrophic like before.
Yeah.
But it's definitely wearing and tearing some much larger, higher rate than a normal phone would.
Well, it is a first generation.
And they're babying it. Yeah, and it's first generation. But what I liked about the Lenovo one, as at least, it's a very different device since it's more of a PC, that I felt like I could literally drop that thing on the floor and nothing bad would happen to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it felt really
durable.
sealed up. Like it has this interesting silicone bezel around the display so that when you fold it, the foldy part, the bezel follows the shape because it's made of the silicone material. And so no dust can get in there, no dirt can get in there. I thought that was cool.
I like that instead of like folding it completely like you would a piece of paper, you're folding it almost like it's a binder or something where there's a curvature, so you don't actually end up with a crease in the screen or anything like that. It's always just a curved screen. So when you fold it, there is a little bit of a space there.
And yeah, I felt like what I liked about it personally was that they leverage that space to store the keyboard.
For the keyboard.
Yeah.
So when you stick the keyboard in between the screen, once it's folded, it wirelessly charges the keyboard. Mm-hmm. So if you like have it in your purse or something like that, it's no problem.
Yeah, it's a small Bluetooth keyboard and it's wirelessly charged through basically being docked inside the folding display, the folding PC. And I was really impressed at the quality of that keyboard. I think ThinkPads are known for that, right?
Yeah, me too. It was
They're
fun to type on.
known for a really good keyboard, and I was impressed how rigid it felt despite being so thin. Mm-hmm. And the trackpad is really small, though. It's like
it is, yeah.
It's like a little stamp
But if you're going to use this as a laptop for what it's worth, like it's a small screen if you're using only half of it.
Yeah.
So the keyboard, if the keyboard's going to be the same dimensions as the screen in the laptop formation, then it's going to be small.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. And I love the different modes of use, right? Like you unfold it, and it's basically like having a 13.3-inch laptop without the keyboard. And then there's a kickstand built in, so you can prop it, and then you can pull the little keyboard out and do your work. Comes with a pen too, that latches onto the back with a little loop on the leather. Yeah, so the outside is leather, right? That's the other thing. It feels like
fancy.
Yeah, it feels like a thick moleskin.
Oh, yes,
That's what it feels
totally
like.
does.
A slightly thicker moleskin.
Yeah.
And when you open it, you have this massively beautiful OLED made by LG in there.
Oh, so nice.
And so it's Intel based, and it's got 4G and 5G. 5G is optional. It's a Qualcomm 5G chip,
right?
From what I hear, and it's got it's going to be running whatever that's Windows version is going to be running on Microsoft's Duo or whatever those new products they announced. So I can't remember, there was a name for it, but it's basically optimized for this multiple display form factors and stuff. But the hardware was impressive. I feel like this thing. It really shows where we can take this folding technology if it's the thing that people want.
And Lenovo seems to have been taking some time with this product. Like last year in 2019, I don't remember which month, but they came out to San Francisco where I am, and they showed it off just as a concept device or a prototype. Right. But at the time, the screen was not as nice as it is now, so they definitely upgraded the quality of the screen. And I couldn't even like record the like folding external kickstand that you use to prop it up.
Oh yeah.
Because they were like, oh, we're gonna change that. Yeah. So they definitely took some of our feedback from those earlier events and kind of put it into this final product. So it's exciting. Apparently, it's gonna come out in the summertime.
Yeah, it's looking at halfway through the year sometime for $2,500, which is steep, but it's easy to deck out a laptop.
Is $2,000.
I know, and it's easy to deck out a laptop to be that much money.
Yeah, it is.
Now this is not. We don't know the specs, right? In great detail, but obviously it should be able to run most things pretty well. I don't expect this thing to be underpowered. It's not. It wouldn't be called a ThinkPad if it was.
No.
I just feel like it's made of carbon fiber. It's made of leather. It's made of this interesting silicone bezel, and of course, it's a plastic OLED folding display but it has a stainless steel backplate apparently that is like this weird comb thing where it when it folds, it keeps it like supported. It's very clever because basically, so cool. From what they were telling me, it's hard to dent the screen. The biggest challenge with making a plastic screen is that yes, it folds. But you could also, like, if you put too much pressure on it, you end up with like a permanent mark. Kind of like, when you write on paper with a ball pen and you can see you're leaving, like, the pressure. If you press really hard, you leave an indent on the paper.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. And the fold is very sensitive. The Galaxy Fold is very sensitive to that. And so as soon as you have a pen, right, input, like, the Galaxy Fold does not have a pencil, doesn't come with one.
Yeah.
But if you had one, like it would instantly like be showing all these scratches, So Lenovo really had to work at fixing that somehow. And they did that with LG. I think it's very, very cool.
They did a great job.
So yeah, I'm super stoked about that product. I think it's nice to see somebody thinking it through and executing on it properly. Whether it's something people want or not, I don't know. But
I want one.
I think it's cool. I want one. Yeah. I mean, you pull that thing out and people are going to be like, whoa.
Yeah, they'll be like, what is that?
Yeah. And I like mini laptops. So the fact that it turned into a mini laptop.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
Teeny
it's about
tiny.
The same size as that.
Yeah, just about.
Like the 701 was. So yeah. So that was Lenovo. And then, of course, they showed the 5G PC. That's a Yoga product, I think.
Yes.
Yoga 5G. I want to say it's a Yoga product. No, it doesn't. It does go all the way around. Anyway, we will put links in the show notes in the description below because I can't really remember what all these products are called. But when I was at Computex in June in 2019 in Taipei, Qualcomm and Lenovo were on stage and showed that they were working on a Snapdragon 8CX 5G based laptop. And honestly, what we saw then, them holding up, pretty much looked like the final product we saw at CES this year.
Oh, wow.
So they've been working on this thing for a while. Industrial design was definitely sorted a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's basically, the same as last year they had a Yoga branded Qualcomm equipped laptop with 4G. It's basically the same idea. It looks very much the same industrial design. It has that new little Lenovo tab etched on the corner thing, that they have on all the new Lenovo laptops. And it has a physical slider on the side for turning on and off airplane mode.
Oh, really? Yeah. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, the mute switch on your iPhone. It's kind of like that, but for turning off all the radios, which is really, I think, cool. Because you just step into, it's kind of like when you step into an airplane, you just flip that switch. You don't have to even open the laptop and fiddle around with it. So I thought that was cool.
I'm partial to the X1 Carbon line of laptops from Lenovo.
You want it to be able to drop it on the carpet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I really like the slimness of the Yoga design.
The Yogas are more my thing, I think.
Yeah.
I like super light and slim laptops. But I think that this thing is going to be interesting. And I think what's most exciting to me is that the one I played with last year had that Snapdragon 850, which was basically a Snapdragon 845 mobile chip-based evolution for PCs. And this is based on the 8CX, which is the Snapdragon 855 evolution into a PC chip.
Very cool.
And it's not 7 nanometer, and it's going to be, it should be a screamer in terms of, if you run native ARM64 apps on it, it should go really fast.
Nice.
That's the challenge right now that Windows 10 has on ARM on Qualcomm, is that there's not enough content.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think for me, what strikes me the most about this is that, I'm all for this idea that Qualcomm and Microsoft have brought up, which is like, imagine an ultra light, ultra thin, always connected PC that acts like your phone. Like there's zero lag when you open the display. You're instantly connected on 4G or Wi-Fi. You instantly are in the app running. You're not even waiting for the thing to do 2 or 3 seconds of waking up. It's instant. I love all that, and I love the long battery life that ARM promises. But right now we have this big issue, and I have currently the Microsoft Surface Pro X, which is using a variation on the 8CX chip from Qualcomm, custom made for Microsoft by Qualcomm, called the SQ1. And cool. that chip is almost as fast, or probably slightly faster than the 8CX. And it's like, if you run Chrome, or there's a version of Chromium, actually, the open source build of Chrome that is available 64-bit. It's hard to find. You pretty much have to compile your own version. So I could do that because I used to write code for a living, but I'm too lazy. So I'm using Firefox 64-bit ARM, which is, you can just download the normal Firefox and you're good. You're in business.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, and so that is so fast. I swear, you put it side by side with a Core i5 laptop, and it's the same performance, like browsing and running all this crazy stuff you can be running in a browser today.
Yeah.
And you can see the battery life just like crawling along, like it's not even touching
that's
it.
Impressive.
And fanless.
That's really nice.
So I think there's something to be said about ARM laptops. I think Intel still has a great future ahead of itself for the more high-end applications. But I really think, this is kind of controversial, but I feel like Intel had an ARM business years ago. They sold it, X-Scale, and I don't know why, because I think ARM is gonna eat the world. It's the future, and for most people today, an ARM laptop with the proper compiled software would perform, I think, better than an Intel PC for the kind of tasks most people do.
Yeah, if you're not gaming hardcore
or a creative that needs
editor.
to be like editing video hardcore. Yes. But that's the other thing, right? Adobe is the one straggler here. Microsoft's recompiled their entire Office suite for ARM64. Firefox is definitely the torch holder of yay Qualcomm Windows 10 ARM. But then where's Adobe, right? Until we get Premiere, until we get Photoshop and Lightroom, basically the entire Creative Cloud stuff available as 64-bit, you can't really be productive on these if you're like us, a creator. Like I'm personally, you're probably Premiere, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Premiere Pro all the way.
I'm more Final Cut, and I do my very rough, simple things in iMovie.
Blasphemy.
I know, I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
It's I just honestly find that for if you're just doing, simple cuts and just like an intro and outro,
Yeah, it works
iMovie is
fine.
just fine. Final Cut is when I want to get a little fancier. And I've taught myself Premiere at the same time as I taught myself Final Cut actually.
At the same time?
Yeah, I wanted to
Whoa.
be able to like
Wow.
be able to switch because my rationale was I I tend to want to be system agnostic. Like I use
Yeah.
Windows PCs, I use Chromebooks. Mac is my main. It's kind of a long love story,
It's good to be
but
agnostic.
I feel that I need to be able to like if worse came to worse and my Mac dies in the middle of a trade show and I
Yeah.
don't have the budget to buy a new Mac or it's fixable and Apple has it in the shop for 2 days, I can go to Best Buy and buy a cheap Windows PC and still edit video.
Yes.
See, I have to
Yeah.
have that skill set.
Yes, you do.
And that's kind of my whole thing.
That was like me trying to use your Apple computer, and I was like, I don't know how to Apple.
So so the thing that's funny to me is that I feel like, if I am going to adopt this Windows on ARM thing, once Adobe comes out with Creative Cloud
Yeah.
on compiled for ARM, I can't lie, I can't be a hypocrite. I have to like know how to use Premiere then, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
then I have to be able to say, look,
So you can
this is
test
your
it.
this is your portable like mobile creative future.
Yeah, totally.
ARM can replace, I expect that for 1080p content, which I know I know a lot of creators that output 4K on YouTube and
Although statistically, most viewers are still doing 1080p.
for sure. But I think that it's coming, so
Yes.
I'm not
It's
sure
slow, but
how
yeah.
well 4K editing is going to work on ARM. But at the same time, if you look, a completely different ecosystem, which is iPadOS or iOS, iPads do video editing in iMovie 4K and render faster than the Mac equivalents.
Are you serious?
Yep. And you know why? Because they have dedicated hardware for rendering.
Oh.
They have hardware accelerated MPEG-4, H.264 and H.265
Wow.
encoding. So when you use an iPad to create to edit video using iMovie, when you hit the render button, you can guarantee that you take the same project in iMovie for Mac
Yeah.
or in Premiere or in anything, and it guaranteed that iPad will be finished first. Like absolutely, it's crazy, and
That is
that's 4K.
crazy.
So it doesn't mean that like if Qualcomm wanted to, they could co-processor that stuff built in
Yeah.
it, right? And then in Premiere would find it and go, oh, you have a co-processor for this render, and boom, at the other end it comes out and it's great.
Oh, I love it.
So I think there's something to be said that. So don't count out 4K yet, but I think if it's running on the CPU like normal, 1080p is. I don't think I'd want to do too much more than 1080p. In the same way, I don't think I want to do much more than 280p on thin and light.
Yeah.
Intel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're gonna do 4K. You want like some gaming rig or something, right? Like a Razer laptop.
That's
or
pretty much
something.
what I would do. I would set it up on my
What do you
gaming
use?
rig at home. At
Like,
home or
no, when you're on the go.
Oh, when I'm on the go, I'm using an
What's your
Alienware.
go-to? Yeah,
It's
see,
an
you're-
Alienware M15.
Yeah, you're like gaming laptop for your rendering.
Yeah,
right?
and it's like a 1080, I think, in there, a GPU.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like fully spec'd out, and that thing's amazing.
Yeah.
It's big. It weighs 5 pounds, but it gets the job done.
Well, that's what you need, and that's what I'm saying. I think that
But the battery, like you were mentioning the battery with
Yeah.
Qualcomm, the battery on this laptop that I use, it's kind of terrible. So like it runs
what
out
is it,
so
like
fast.
3 hours, 5 hours?
If I'm lucky, I can get 5 hours, but
Right.
usually it's closer to 4.
Well, so I mean,
Well, you know.
I mean, it's the compromise you make, right? Like, and I think this is why I'm excited about this ARM laptop future because we might not have to make these compromises as strongly anymore. Now, you're still going to be able to run games like you do on the Alienware, of course. But if you're just doing video editing, I think right now, I feel like video editing, rendering videos shouldn't be that challenging of a problem when you see
Yeah.
how fast the iPad renders. Like, you're like, okay, somebody can accelerate this somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe, on desktops, it could just be a card you stick in there or something. Just in the same way as you say you have a GPU in your machine. I don't know. In
That's really
fact,
cool.
the new Mac Pro, the big tower that they just released, has a dedicated card that can do like 8K rendering in whatever Apple's special codec is, like in
Wow.
hardware. Like it can render 25 streams of 8K at real time and barely pegs the CPU.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
like I don't know, like
If
because
only I liked
there's probably
Macs.
people listening right now are going like, "No, Miriam, that's not right," and I'm like, "You're probably right that it's not right." But my point is
we're
that
guesstimating.
it's very close. Like somewhere I've read something about it being able to handle multiple 8K streams, like tens of multiple 8K streams without even skipping a beat.
That's
So
nice.
yeah, I mean, and this is what I mean. Like a lot of people bitched about the Mac Pro being so expensive. It's not for you and me. This is a computer for like people who work at Lucas and render like Star
Or
Wars
ridiculous
movies. Like,
YouTubers that just buy it anyway.
yeah, for Marquez, and I don't mean that Marquez is a ridiculous YouTuber. I just mean that he has a reason for it. He shoots
He
at
does.
8K.
I know, yeah. He shoots at 8K, so he could absolutely get some use out of
And
that.
he does. He has a Mac Pro now.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears quickly to TCL. I feel like that's the other big thing that happened that got
Yeah.
me really excited.
I was pretty
I mean,
stoked about that.
Lenovo got me pretty excited.
AMD was pretty exciting.
Let's talk about that maybe since we're in the PC realm, and then we can switch
Okay.
to the mobile realm a bit. What happened at AMD then?
So they ended up introducing like 3 different products, and it was so funny because I was in line for AMD and everybody was like, "Oh, maybe they'll, I don't know, introduce a new GPU or oh no, probably not much, but sounds exciting." They ended up like dropping the mic in the audience, and I was just like, "Whoa!" Like everyone in the audience was like, oh my gosh!"
What's going on?
Like applauding and gasping and stuff. So it was pretty exciting. AMD ended up introducing a 7 nanometer mobile chip that they are going to be including in laptops this year. They even brought one on stage. The exciting thing about it is that they're taking that Zen 2 architecture from the 3000 series that you saw in desktops over to the mobile line, so laptop generation.
That's
So
cool.
thinner, lighter, supposed to be really, really nice clock speeds. So, and they're also going to have like, they're keeping the same kind of model numbers, so they'll still have like the 3, 5s, and 7s.
Right.
They had a few different versions of these. They're the 4000 models. They'll have H and U, so the 4800H, for example, 4800U. So the H's will be for gamers. So these will have slightly higher clock speeds that they can go at. Probably means they'll be a little bit more expensive, to tell the truth, most likely in the laptop partnerships. And then the U's were supposed to be for more portable, thinner laptops.
Cool.
So pretty exciting there. They did show a partnership with, I believe it was Asus, with their Republic of Gamers, the Zephyrus G14/15, which probably means it's a 14-inch/15-inch laptop. Yeah, so that one's going to be one of the ones releasing this year, along with apparently like 100 other laptops with different partners that they're going to have. So really exciting with Ryzen, since they're, finally bringing that there. And it's going to be good competition for Intel, because Intel has their i7, the 10 nanometer chips for laptops at the moment. So 7 is much thinner. Very, very pretty.
Intel had a press conference today, but I missed it. Yeah, I don't know what was announced. I have to check. So, I mean, we'll have to look. If maybe we'll cover it on the next episode later this week. But it's cool. AMD's been doing some interesting stuff, and
they really have.
I'm kind of excited to see them do more mobile, more portable stuff, because
I am too.
like desktops are great, but it's just like you have to be at home, and I'm so not often at home.
And I have one of their Ryzen, I think it's the 2700 right now in my gaming desktop. I don't remember. It's my editing desktop, whatever it is. I don't know. Numbers. So I would love to be able to bring a nice Ryzen like editing PC with me, especially if it's a little bit lighter. Hopefully the battery is a little bit more efficient. They were quoting that, for example, the Ryzen 7 4800U would be just 4% better for single thread performance, but 90% better for multi-threaded. So that's like for editing. Yeah, that's insane. And then they also said it would be like better graphics over the competition. So AKA over Intel.
Yeah, so I just quickly looked at what Intel might have done today, and it looks like they brought a discrete graphic card. They made their own discrete graphics. Interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm not sure what that's about, but here you go. I'll try to link to it in the show notes. There's a story there. The other big unknown for me at the show, where normally at this time of the show I would have something to talk about, is Asus. I'm actually getting briefed by them, like I think Wednesday, or some.
Oh yeah.
So a little later this week.
Cool.
Normally it's on the weekend, so I'm a little kind of feeling like I'm not having my PC fix as much as usual. And Dell and HP brought in some stuff as well. HP brought in a new 13-inch Elite Dragonfly, which is their business lineup.
That was
and it has
really
a built-in
nice.
tile.
Yeah, dude, that was cool.
Why did it take so long?
So I asked about this because I was like, oh, that's so smart. Sticking basically the tile hardware inside of a laptop, but it runs off of the laptop's battery.
Correct.
So you never have to replace the tile battery inside of it, which is great. If you ever lose your laptop or you misplace it, even if your laptop is on mute or the volume is down to 0, it will still set off the alarm because the tile is read as a separate audio signal, basically.
Yeah.
And you can run this from your phone just like you do with any other devices to find your tiles.
That's right.
So cool.
It's very cool.
So cool.
And they also announced that this Elite Dragonfly enterprise laptop will be available with a 5G version.
Yay.
Which I think is cool.
So many 5G laptops.
Yeah, I mean, this is the year of 5G. We joked about it last year saying, 2019 is the year of 5G, but I kind of knew it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
Because your networks weren't out yet, but it's really going to have a lot of momentum this year. I've been using 5G on T-Mobile since Hawaii, since I went to Qualcomm.
Cool.
I have a OnePlus 7T Pro 5G as my phone in my pocket right now.
Nice.
And I'm getting 5G here in Vegas.
Oh, that's great.
And my battery life doesn't suck. So it's
awesome.
real. It's happening. It's my day-to-day now. So it's not in the Bay Area officially. There's a few pockets in the East Bay where I'm getting 5G, but I don't think it's supposed to happen.
Oh.
In Alameda, I was getting 5G, pretty solid 5G in Alameda.
That's good to know.
So if you're in Alameda, California, and you want 5G, go to T-Mobile and get yourself a OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren edition and go nuts. Also in my other place my other residence in Oregon, I have 5G there.
Wow.
In fact,
it's coming.
Large chunks of Northern California when I'm driving through have 5G. It's happening. It's real. So I think this is why, we kind of go, 5G laptop, woo. But no, I think by the end of the year, that's going to be probably a few, are wanting to have a bit better connectivity options. I think it's probably going to be a viable thing. And I think that's why HP is starting with focusing on the more enterprise laptops. But these Dragonfly, Elite Dragonflies, that's actually the laptop that I told you about that I forgot to bring to help you earlier when you tried to use my Mac.
Oh.
That's the HP that I have right now, the Dragonfly, the 13,
awesome.
the Elite. And for a enterprise laptop that's meant for IT departments to hand out to employees, it's sexy. Like, it's super light, super thin,
nice.
super well made. I really like it.
So cool.
I'm sure HP did other things. They had a really cool all-in-one that I saw. I remember in their briefing. This is all in December now. Seems like such a long time ago. But Dell, I just looked it up in my email. There was a thing that I got to see. I don't know if you were at their briefing in SF as well.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh yeah, that's where I saw you.
That's where we met up.
The Duet, the concept Duet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they did something similar to what Lenovo did with the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Fold. So it's a concept, but it's called the Duet. It's Ori I'm thinking about. There's a Duet and the Ori. The Ori is the one that's folding. Names mixed up. Yeah.
And then they have the UFO, which is a
gaming
gaming controller / console.
Basically
thing.
looks like a Nintendo Switch.
It's like a handheld Nintendo Switch, but it has full Windows baked in to the screen.
It's crazy. So yeah, so
I'm
Dell
gonna put Linux
basically,
on
I'll put links to some of the Dell stuff and HP stuff in the show notes as well. A bunch of concepts from Dell that really I thought were pretty cool, and of course, we've got the new what is it called, XPS 13,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I
Which is really
love that
super
line.
slick. That was actually announced earlier before CES, just between New Year's and CES. The press releases went out for that. So it's always been a laptop show. I know that the audience likes when we talk about phones. So let's switch to talking about phones because TCL, right? Like we got a lot of good news from TCL.
Yeah, we did.
So what is your take? Do you want to tell the audience what TCL is bringing to the show?
Yeah, so I don't remember the names of them, but they had 3 different smartphones that they announced.
10 Lite, 10 Pro, 10 5G.
There we go. I knew you would know it.
Ha.
So, one, I was super excited to hear that they're not only bringing, this new market of like, hey, TCL is going to get into the smartphone market and bring this into America, which is pretty exciting. They're just in itself, but they also said that all 3 of those phones, including the 5G one, are going to be under $500, and they include high-end flagship specs. Now we don't know a lot about them yet, but like 4 cameras on all of them
I think all 4 of them have 4 cameras
on the back.
So as you said, sub $500, more details expect to be revealed at Mobile Congress in the end of February in Barcelona. But what's exciting to me about it is that TCL's been just basically making TVs until now and had the Alcatel sub-brand for phones and then the BlackBerry sub-brand as well.
Yeah.
And then at IFA they announced this TCL Plex, which was like a upper mid-range-ish phone, that kind of like, here's a phone that with our own brand on it. And we were kind of all like, looked at it, squinted, and went, okay, sure. And then like
Good
now
luck,
they're getting
TCL.
serious. Like, so TCL comes to CES and drops 3 phones that I figure the Lite might be around $300 actually. Looking at the specs, well, what I could glean
Maybe
from
3,
what I
4,
played with
5.
it. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I bet you the Pro and the 5G are identical other than the 5G.
Oh, yeah.
Like spec-wise.
You're probably right.
Yeah, the 5G has this really cool matte glass finish though, which I think is really interesting.
It's very pretty.
And I think it was the Lite, or was it the Lite and the Pro had a rear fingerprint sensor on the back. Whereas
I'll have to look at my pictures.
The 5G didn't. So the 5G is probably OLED and probably has a fingerprint reader in the display.
I hope that's right.
I mean, that's not uncommon at $500 price point nowadays from Chinese manufacturers.
Yeah.
TCL being a Chinese-based Chinese-based company, they have access to some pretty good resources in terms of sourcing parts and stuff. So it's pretty obvious to me that this TCL 10 5G will be using the Snapdragon 765G chip, which is a built-in 5G chipset.
Yeah.
And the G is the gaming version, which is slightly faster in terms of gaming performance.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of non-gaming phones using the G chipsets from Qualcomm. Oppo currently has the Reno 2, which has a Snapdragon 730G, which is the previous generation, non-5G. But it has the G part is the gaming part, and it performs pretty much for gaming very close to a Snapdragon 855.
Cool.
So this is probably going to perform very close to Snapdragon 865.
Okay.
And then I don't expect the 4G, the Pro version, the non-5G version of this phone to be very different than the 5G.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's probably 765 without the 5G in it, like disabled, or not used.
That's not bad.
And it could be something else. It could be maybe last year's 855, just to keep the cost down.
Maybe.
Since it doesn't have 5G. And then I don't know what the Lite is going to be. But we don't know. We can only guess. I'm excited to see that these, they didn't commit, but I think they hinted really pretty hard that these might be coming to the US. And so more unlocked phones in the US
well, they give us the pricing in USD.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good indicator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm stoked by the fact that they came out kind of swinging hard, and because more options are better. Hopefully the software is not too customized.
Yes.
The Alcatel phones that they've been making, and they released a whole bunch of new Alcatel phones.
I like my vanilla Android.
Yeah, me too. They've released a bunch of, I don't know all the details. They weren't really interesting to me. Alcatel phones are usually low to mid range, and like really mid range, not like $500 mid range. What I usually call those $500 phones, instead of premium flagship, which is like the Pixels and the Galaxies.
Yeah.
I call these like affordable flagships because they have flagship specs. Like if you look at the OnePlus 7T,
yeah, that makes sense.
it's a $549 phone that has a Snapdragon 855 Plus in it. So I think that's cool. Also, TCL did a folding phone, the Foldable. It's a concept.
Well, all we saw was a picture on the screen.
Well, I got to play with it a little bit.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, and Brad at Alcatel TCL was kind enough to let me handle it very briefly. I was not to open it. I was allowed to just hold it and get the weight and feel for it. But he opened it for me on video. He was my hand model, and it's good.
That's nice.
I'll put the video in the description, and I'll put both Shannon and my video of the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Fold in the description below, since we're talking about folding stuff. And so the thing that's interesting to me about the TCL Foldable is that even though it's a concept, I like the form factor. Like it's a passport size that opens up into a tablet.
That's a great size.
And then it has, also has 4 cameras in the back and stuff. So I don't think we're going to see this exactly in that, that form factor or colors, that crazy green color, and that faceted diamond weird finish that they stole from HTC with a touch diamond back in like 2009 or whatever that was.
What, should we bring that back now? It's 10 years.
I mean,
11 years
they
now.
ripped it right off of HTC, and I guess HTC doesn't really matter that much anymore. They're not going to get sued, so it's a concept. It's not a real product, so they're probably safe.
True.
But I think it's interesting. TCL is not going to release phones that cost a lot of money. So the fact that they're making...
If it's anything like their TV brand...
Exactly. Which is a super popular brand right now in the US. And that's why I think it's interesting that they're bringing phones to potentially the US, because the brand name exists now. It's real. It's a thing. And, they might be able to pull... If they maybe in a year or two continue making phones 2 or 3 generations from now, when they start getting carrier deals going, like OnePlus took them a while to get there, but they got there, we might have more competition at the carriers and at the Best Buys and Unlocked, your favorite Amazon store to get these phones, and choice is good. So I'm excited about that. And, so the foldable TCL is more... we can expect this phone to cost like maybe $500 to $700 when it finally reaches market in a year or two. Yeah. Right. And it folded flat too. Like unlike the Galaxy Fold that has that gap, right? Yeah. This thing actually folded inward and was completely flush.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
And that to me was interesting. So watch that video, folks. Have a look. See for yourself. What's exciting here is that it's not going to happen for a while. It's very similar to what they showed behind a glass case at MWC last year, but I feel like it tells us that TCL is really serious about bringing foldable technology for phones to a price point that's a little better than the $2,000 Samsungs and $2,500 Huawei Mate X and what is it, $1,500 Razer phones from Lenovo Moto.
Jeez, I really hope that somebody comes out with a foldable phone that's under $1,000.
I think that's going to happen this year.
I think so too, and if it happens, that means I'll win my prediction on another podcast. So better happen. It better. Bingo. I'm holding you all to it.
That's good. The other thing that TCL did, we're going to talk about TVs in a moment, very briefly, but the other thing that got me excited about TCL is that, everybody who listens to the show for a bit of time knows that I'm a bit of an audio person. I love audio products.
Just a bit.
And I'm picky about audio, and TCL has, as they're growing through their TV business, is exploring phones that are not Alcatel branded, exploring audio peripherals. So they'd be doing headphones and earbuds and sound bars. And every time I try one of their audio products, last year was their tiny cheap USB maybe they weren't even USB. I think they were just 3.5 millimeter earbuds, like wired, totally like, what you'd buy at like the 7-Eleven because you forgot your headphones for the day. Like they were super cheap, super nice. They sounded fantastic. That was a year ago. I was blown away that these $20 headphones earbuds sounded that good. But OnePlus did the same thing. OnePlus did a pair of $20 USB-C earbuds called the Bullets USB-C that sound incredible for $20.
They sound really good. Yeah, I have those at home.
I have them in my bag and I use them for phone calls.
They're great.
Yeah. And so they came out this time with some noise canceling headphones and some earbuds that are not noise canceling. They're just true wireless, so they're like independent earbuds with no wires. $80. I've had them. They sent me a pair before the holidays, and I tried them out, and I was just like, really, this doesn't suck. It is $80. And unlike a lot of these other earbuds, like the AirPods and whatever, like there's no app. There's no settings. You just pair them and you're done. You don't have to worry about fanciness here. Like this is just basic stuff. Like no noise canceling. You got silicone, so it does block a little bit naturally, like passive.
Yeah.
But like there's no BS here. This is just straight up
okay with
good
that.
audio in your ear. And the battery life is really good. And the case is translucent, so when you put them into charge, they have a little white LED on them, and you shut it and it shines through. So it looks like a little alien baby with two eyes glowing.
Oh my gosh, so cute.
And unfortunately, we couldn't get the purple one for you today. And
Yeah,
I
I was
wanted to get the
looking for
red
it.
one just for a different color. Because I was like, I already have the gray ones.
I think everybody got
So
the
now
gray
I've got a
ones.
second pair of gray ones. I'm just going to give them to Theo, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
that's nice of you.
Yeah, of course. And then, so TCL did that, and they did also an active version of those that has a wireless charging in the case.
Yes.
And is a bit more waterproof. They're already water resistant, but
It looks like the other one's based on
active
more
ones-
like a sporty.
Yeah, they're sportier, and I think they might have a slightly different sound too.
Mhm.
And then some headphones and the soundbar. So the sound, I'm not a TV person. I don't watch much TV. Generally, I watch it either on a big projector with a big sound system, or I watch it, on my tiny little laptop screen or my iMac sometimes.
Yeah.
And with headphones usually.
Oh.
So soundbars are kind of something that every time I hear a soundbar, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's certainly easier to set up than putting all these speakers and setting things up the complicated way, but it never sounds quite right to me. I'm kind of like, meh. And then I listened to the soundbar from TCL and I was just like, you're kidding me, right? This is a soundbar? This is like the only thing in the room that makes sound right now?
Soundbars are great these days.
Yeah, this one's really, really good, this new TCL one. I don't know what they did. It's like voodoo magic, like some kind of like they sold their soul to the devil or something. Anyway, so TCL was, I have to give them props this year for kind of impressing me more than average, probably because they're the only people that really release phones. Oh,
Yeah.
Speaking of mobile and phones, this is not CES specific, but just before CES started, like during the holidays last week, I think right after my podcast
I think
was
I
recorded,
know where you're going.
they announced out of nowhere, Samsung said, we're making a Galaxy S10 Lite
Right.
and a Galaxy Note 10 Lite.
Yeah, that was random.
Like, I think that was like the last day of December. Like, they were like, oh, by the way, to meet our quotas for our shareholders this year,
It
here
almost
are
kind of feels
two
like
phones that are going to confuse the living crap out of you.
it was totally last minute. It felt like somebody's afterthought almost.
Okay,
But
so
they're cool phones.
hear this out. This is crazy. Yeah, they're okay. They're definitely like cheaper mid-range. So this is what's confusing. They're S and Note phones.
Yeah.
So they're supposedly part of the flagship lineup, but they're very mid-range.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. And they have the Galaxy S10e as a reminder.
Right.
The 10e exists. You think that's kind of the low end? No, this is more low end than that. Number one. Number two.
Did they like just figure out that people want
but they have
inexpensive
the
phones
but they
that
have the A.
flagship
They have the
product?
Galaxy A line for that.
Oh, that's
The
right. they
Galaxy
do.
A line has the same premium design as the Galaxy S line, but is a mid-range line. What is going on at Samsung?
I don't
Are
know.
they mad? So
They just want to confuse you even more.
So what I figured out was that I dug into the specs a little bit. This is
Yeah.
what is also crazy. As you know, the Note 10 series is the first phones from Samsung to drop the headphone jack. Yes?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Right.
I
Well,
missed my headphone jack.
guess what the Note 10 Lite does have?
A headphone jack.
Uh-huh.
Ha!
But this is going to completely blow your brains. This is why I think somebody at Samsung is losing its mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
I said on purpose. Their mind. The Galaxy S10 Lite does not have a headphone jack.
Wait,
So
what?
the Note 10 Lite has a headphone jack, but the S10 Lite does not.
What?
All the other S10s have a headphone jack, but all the other Notes don't have a headphone jack. So it's a reverse.
Did like somebody screw up in manufacturing?
Probably. They probably branded them the wrong thing. The Note 10 Lite does have the stylus, the S Pen. So it's
so
a Note.
weird.
It's definitely a Note.
Okay.
And the Note 10 Lite has the 3 cameras in the back, ultra wide,
Yeah.
tele.
So it has like
regular.
everything else that you would expect.
But this is where you're gonna get confused again. I'm telling you, this whole thing is mad. It's bonkers mad. The
Okay,
Note 10,
I think I need a
the Note
spreadsheet.
10 Lite has an Exynos chip, not a Qualcomm chip.
Why?
Exactly. Thank you. And then you ready for this? The S10 Lite
Does it get worse?
has a Qualcomm chip in it.
Oh.
But you know what it doesn't have?
A
The
headphone
camera
jack.
setup that you think. Yeah, it doesn't have the headphone jack. But it doesn't have the camera setup you think. It doesn't have like, so
Wait.
the 10e, right? The 10e has a regular and ultra wide, just like the iPhone 11.
Yeah.
Well, the S10 Lite has 4 cameras or 3 cameras in the back. But not what you think. It's not an ultra wide, regular, and wide.
What is
One
it?
of them is a 48 megapixel
Uh-huh.
of some like high megapixel mid-range camera,
Okay.
right? Standard fare on most phones these days. One is, I think, ultra wide, and the other one is like a macro lens or like some kind of weird portrait assist like
Really?
depth sensor. It's bonkers.
That's so.
It's crazy. They've
Weird.
they've lost the plot completely.
They have way too many phones now.
And then
Oh,
here's
Lord.
why I think this is crazier than ever. Then 3 days later, they announce, "Hey, we're gonna have an event on February 11th in San Francisco to launch the next Galaxy
so,
S."
So why did they just release these phones at the end of December?
I think it's quotas.
And then,
Or-
and then
or,
they're
you
having
know,
this event.
I think the Oompa Loompas at Samsung that build the phones,
you're
Oompa
so mean.
Loompa, they were like, "Oh, look, we have spare parts left for this and that. Let's mix and match and build a Frankenphone and sell it, and then we'll get some extra profit margin for the end of the year. It'll look good on the books."
That's so funny.
I mean,
See,
I
I,
don't
just
wanna
feel
be
like I'm
mean,
getting
like-
more and more confused, and I need spreadsheets now to
No,
like
it's getting ridiculous.
figure out which ones have
Look,
which.
I don't want to be mean because I know that Samsung does some really good stuff. It's
They
just
do.
like
I used to have a Note 4 back
Like
in
I'm
the
a big
day.
fan of the Note series and the S series. I just feel like this
I
is
love the
diluting.
10.
This is diluting the brand. You
Yeah.
have the A series, stick with that.
Yeah.
And if you make a Note 10 Lite, that's fair because we already have 3 Galaxy S10s like
Right.
this and S10e. You could have had a Note 10 Lite, but not on 31 of December, not with a headphone jack to confuse us and an Exynos chip.
I have a question. Do you think that they're gonna get rid of the A line, or like?
No way. It's so popular worldwide. Not in the
Oh,
US, but like
it is?
Europe,
Okay.
that's all they sell. A's,
Okay.
A's, A's. Yeah, they're all over the place there.
Oh.
I
So
don't see
have
that,
have they released the new phones that they announced at the end of December? Are those going to be worldwide as well?
From what I understand, yeah, they're going to be worldwide.
Okay.
They showed them here at CES. There was a briefing I wasn't invited to,
Yep.
thanks Samsung. At that same briefing, they announced a super high-end 4K display, ultra-thin, ultra-light Chromebook. And I'm a big sucker for Chromebooks.
I love
especially my
Chromebooks.
Pixelbook, which is like the thinnest, lightest Chrome OS device I have.
Yeah.
But that does not have a 4K screen. It has a lot of bezels. So this is kind of like the
Yes.
Chromebook the Pixelbook, sorry, that Google didn't make, basically. And it's funny that it's Samsung, and I have no idea if it's running one of Samsung's own chips, which they've done before for Chromebooks. I guess they have a weird Exynos variant that's like optimized for running Chrome, but I have a feeling it's Intel based probably.
Okay.
But that's again something I didn't get a chance to play with that I'm really excited.
I would like to
about.
play with that. I really like Chromebooks. I like testing Linux on them.
So since we spoke of Samsung, maybe we should quickly segue onto TVs and kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
Televisions. I'm not a television person because, as I said, I mostly watch on my computers, and I happen to have a projector for when I have a group of people. So I'm still in the 1080p world because my projector is 1080p.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm still like 1080p too, with a TV from 2010.
oh boy. So today, with a series of press conferences and a series of TV companies, we saw TCL with their TVs, so we can talk about that. Samsung had launched a bunch of TVs and LG. And there's Hisense as well, there's Vizio as well. That all of this happened the last few days.
So many.
So I'm gonna kind of rapid fire it, and you can feel free to chime in on any of these.
Okay.
Vizio's big news was they finally made their first OLED TV.
Yay! Good job,
And that's
Vizio.
exciting because I like OLED a lot. So that was good.
Me too.
Then we move on to TCL, I would say, because they showed that they're serious about micro LED as a backlighting technology for their quantum dot displays.
Yes.
So that's actually pretty exciting because the more LEDs, the more depth levels of brightness you can get, and of course that's very important. So that's cool. Do you remember anything else from TCL from the press conference on TVs?
Was it 8K that they were showing?
That was they were showing off an 8K TV.
Yeah.
Well, so the general theme of CES 2020 is 8K TVs everywhere with like crazy AI-based upscaling technologies.
Yep.
Because there's no 8K content, but it seems very clear that people want 8K or the manufacturers think people want 8K, and they're going to do it. Like TCL talked about it today, like, we expect every TV sold in a year or two to be 8K.
Yep.
And we're going to try to bring the price point there. So that's encouraging for us consumers. I'm in. If you give me more for the same price, I'll take it.
Yeah, totally.
So TCL, I think they're doing micro LED and 8K, of course. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You'd expect that from TCL. And then, of course, I touched on their sound bars very briefly earlier. And then we've got, of course, Samsung and LG, the big boys, right? Now, there's also Hisense. I didn't go to their press conference. There's also a bunch of other TV companies that I missed. Panasonic has an ultra bright OLED apparently, but I don't think it's 8K. Who has an OLED with 8K? Well, LG does.
Oh, of course they do.
So that's one thing they showed today, an 8K OLED TV. That's pretty big.
Beautiful.
Pretty big thing. We got a really small OLED from LG, 48-inch OLED. OLEDs are typically harder to make in small sizes.
Right. Under 55, it gets tough.
So 48, and this is kind of a gaming kind of oriented thing, which is exciting.
So that means you'll have a low refresh rate.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I'm excited about is that we're seeing OLED in areas where we didn't see OLED before, like 8K on one end,
that is
small 48-inch displays on the other end, basically friendly to gamers, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And
even though you see the price of TVs drop so drastically so quickly, the smaller sizes are going to open up a new market for these companies too.
Yeah. And then Samsung kind of blew my mind with a 8K QLED, so their quantum dot LCD technology.
Pretty.
A big one. I was like 75 or something, like usual. And you're going to say a big deal, that's been done before. Well, not like that, because this thing has a bezel that's so thin, it's like 2.3 millimeter or something. It's basically as thin as two ball pens or something side by side. Basically, when you're looking at it sitting from a normal viewing distance, the bezels disappear. You just see the image kind of edge and stop, and then there's whatever's behind your TV.
That's ridiculous.
And to just make it even more challenging, because why not, they decided to make it 2 centimeters thick, which is about an inch thick.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I want to see them take the back of this thing off so I can see what the tech looks like.
OLEDs are usually thin, we know that, but this is not OLED. This is LCD quantum dot it's got to have an array of LEDs backlighting the thing and electronics to drive it all. And it's really cool because the edge is aluminum and it's perforated aluminum. It kind of looks like that cheese grater look from Apple. But when you're looking at it straight on, you can't see it because it's so thin. Yeah. And when you look at it from the side, it looks really cool, industrial designy. And the whole thing can be mounted like basically on your wall. And it's only an inch thick.
That is insane.
I mean,
it's so
LG's always kind of impressed me a little more than Samsung because they do the OLED, and I'm a big OLED fan. And then they did the TV that comes out, that rolls out from the bottom last year at CES.
Yeah.
And they showed a better version of that this year.
Nice.
But I think that Samsung's winning this one for to show what can be done with quantum dot and LCD is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then they had their whatever, the TV that auto rotates. They had
Which could be great if you're watching content on Instagram or TikTok.
It's called the Samsung Sero. It's not the first time they've shown it, but this is actually a production-ready product that I think might come to some markets, maybe the US. Basically, the TV detects whether the content is a landscape and portrait and auto-rotates on its stand. And then you can enjoy the full experience without black bars.
That's really cool.
I think it's for a different generation than mine.
It's definitely for a different generation.
Mean,
it's for my generation. Although I don't identify.
Seem on board, I was going to say. Like, for me, it's like, what bothers me the most is that I'm like, seriously, like, don't shoot portrait unless you intend purposely to do an Instagram story or something. Like, don't shoot portrait. And so... Like, can we just encourage people not to shoot portrait instead? Like, and then stick with, like, eyes are wide lengthwise and not height-wise. Like, I don't get it.
That's what
Get off my lawn, you kids.
Your eyeballs are next to each other.
I know,
they're not on top of each other.
I don't get it. Yeah. I just want them to get off my lawn now. Okay. And so I think that's it basically for me. Like, I'm trying. I mean, remember, this is CES starts tomorrow. So if you're listening to this show. It'll be Tuesday or Wednesday, and CES will have started. But by the time we're recording this, we're at the end of Monday night, 3 days of press events. And we haven't even seen half of it at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. There's so much more. So, yeah, it's been, it hasn't really blown me away this year so far, but I'm not going to complain. It's CES, I go into it very jaded anyway.
Do you?
12 years or something.
Oh, yeah.
After a while, you kind of like, I'm excited in the sense that, like, this TCL phone stuff, it's cool. I wasn't expecting it. Kudos. Thanks for bringing something I didn't know was going to happen. That's where I get fun, when it's, like, unexpected. The Lenovo folding thing. Cool.
I do like the unexpected. This is my 11th year, so I think, I mean, honestly, if I'm being truthful with myself, I probably go into it with a little bit of that jaded feel.
Yeah.
But I still get really excited about it just from the passion that I have for technology. And I always try to come into it like, I want to learn about security and privacy that these companies are doing.
Yeah.
Like, that's always been my big thing.
Sony had a press conference today. I didn't go to it. Apparently there was some rumors of PlayStation 5 related things, but it turned out it was a big dud. I didn't read why it was a big dud. So,
okay.
And then friends at Qualcomm, and they had Lenovo up on stage showing that 5G laptop.
Yes.
But they also showed, if you're into automotive stuff, they showed basically a chip set called the Snapdragon Drive platform.
Ooh.
That is comes in a box as a kind of a testing platform that you can, if you're a car manufacturer, you can buy this from Qualcomm, try it out. And it basically makes your car basically level 2 autonomous.
That's crazy.
If you have the right sensors. So it's like they handle the whole thing, and it's very cool.
All right.
And I mean, it's not the first time that Qualcomm's done, like automotive stuff. They're pretty heavily into it. But it's kind of nice to have this like kind of black box one stop shop thing for semi-autonomous driving, or I should say driver-assisted technology.
That can be built in.
Yeah, that's really and then cool. The other thing they did was they had Jaguar Land Rover, the company, on stage showing that they adopted the Snapdragon platform for their
cool.
Defender, which is their new off-road super awesome SUV that they just announced.
I want to drive one.
Yeah, I'll take it. We should do that.
Do a test run?
Like it's not like we don't have enough work already, right? We can throw in some car reviews in there, right?
There we go.
Oh,
just add more to the market.
Yeah. Right. Well, we should wrap it up. Shannon, do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet? All your handles and stuff?
Sure. I'll make it easy for you. I'm at Snubs, SNUBS on Twitter. Or you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/myname, Shannon Morse.
Nice. You got that URL. I recently switched from my own account to a branded account. And I'm in URL limbo right now.
Oh, gosh. That's the worst.
I need to talk to YouTube and figure out what's going on, because my old URL which was my last name, redirects to my own account that doesn't have any videos.
Oh,
and then
no.
you can type Mobile Tech Podcast in YouTube though and get to it. So there you go. That's how you can find me. If you want my YouTube channel, which is a complement to the podcast with visual content like, unboxings and hands-on videos, type Mobile Tech Podcast in the YouTube search bar and you'll get to my channel until I can figure out my URL situation. and then we have the Mobile Tech Podcast at mobiletechpodcast.com. So if you stumbled on this show and you want to subscribe, you can do it at the URL below, I should say, in the notes. That's mobiletechpodcast.com. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, all the places. If you do find us there and you can rate or review the show, please do. That helps a lot. And, remember that if you're old school, there's an RSS feed there, so you're safe. You're fine. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Tankgirl. That's TNKGRL, like the comic book character without the vowels. If you want to interact with me about the podcast, since it's impossible to comment on podcasts, just go to Twitter and tell me, hey, you got those specs wrong on that TV, because I probably did. And you can also...
We're speaking from memory.
Yeah. And you can also find me on Instagram at the same handle. So if you like watching, the occasional story and some pretty pictures of phones and taken with phones, that's definitely the place to go. I also want to thank our usual sponsor, Audible.com, the audiobook company, very well known, one of our favorites. We've had them forever. They've been like our sponsor for, I think, since the very beginning almost.
I love Audible.
They're great, right? We listen to their books on the road a lot, like when we're driving.
I listen to them when I'm cleaning.
And there you go. Like if you're doing something that doesn't allow you to physically read a book.
Yeah.
And so if you like books, if you're a bookworm, but for some reason you can't actually read a book for whatever reason, like your delivery driver all day on UPS or something, check out audible.com. We have a great deal for you, 30-day free trial with no strings attached, where you can keep one of the books you download at the end. And no matter whether you continue, you support the podcast. The URL is audibletrial.com/mobiletech. That's audibletrial.com/mobiletech. I'll put in the show notes below. You can click on that and try it out if you don't have it already. Great way to get to books if you are not able to read them, and more importantly, incredible selection. Like, I don't know what you like to listen to on Audible, but to me, it's
Game of Thrones books.
There you go. The game, like we're about to do the Star Wars one, because they always put the Star Wars movies into a book form. It's like 21 hours, epic,
perfect.
It's going to be fantastic. And then I love that a lot of these books are read by the authors too, so you get kind of like that.
Tina Fey read her own book. It was so good.
There you go. So check it out, folks, and remember that helps us and supports us. So consider that audibletrial.com/mobiletech, link in the show notes. And that's it, folks. I want to thank Shannon for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was a long, tiring day.
Oh, man. It was fun, though.
Yeah, CES is CES. I kind of love to hate it and hate to love it. But here we are, So stay tuned. I'll try to have another show later this week. I don't want to make promises I can't keep, but I'm pretty confident we're going to make it happen. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk to you then. Cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.